In 2023, a crack commando unit of retro podcasters joined forces on a panel at LA Comic-Con, but were sent to Comic-Con jail for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped. Today, still wanted by 80s nerds, they are very easy to find. If you have an 80s nostalgia problem, if no one else can help, maybe you can hire the Night Boys.
It's 80s Kids Unite. We're back, baby, as Corey would say. It's I almost said Corey.
It's me.
It's me. In the pad world, I'm known as Tiny T. In the $2 world, I'm known as
the fuck is Tiny T? I've literally never heard that.
You've
Corey
never heard Tiny T?
Tiny T all the time.
That was his first nickname, was Tiny T.
What does that mean? Tiny tits?
Because he would always wear tiny
I wear
t-shirts.
tiny t-shirts.
Yeah. And
makes sense.
Diallo is joining us. TV Obscura Diallo, the master of every frickin' TV theme song known to man the kind. I think we did a watch list not that long ago, and we're still getting feedback from that watch list. People going like, yeah, Diallo knows every single one. How come he didn't call out this song from this TV show? How come he didn't do that one?
I had to feel a lot of like, settle down, guys. We're gonna be coming back to this. Yeah, I got a lot of like, why wasn't that on there? Well,
really?
This is gonna be a yearly thing.
Yeah, we each had
weird.
like 4, and there's like 5,000
Yeah.
shows.
It's like, did you not listen to the part where we said this is going to be a yearly show?
It's going to be a yearly show for everyone wondering. Those of you that strictly listen to Pad and listen to TV Obscura, we've been doing this watch list with like theme songs. We will continue to do that annually. So have no fear. Never mind.
Wait.
Corey,
But I just need some clarification. People are like, why didn't you name 5,000 songs?
Yeah.
No.
No,
Some
people
like,
wanted like a top 100 or something.
What?
Yeah, it's insane. Well, you know what? It means people are passionate, you know?
I guess, but why chime in on like, it's like the what ifism, or is it just like, why can't you celebrate what we did do instead of being like, you guys missed this?
That's
Like,
not the world we live in.
It's the magic of lists. They always get people riled up. If you leave something off or you didn't put something higher, then then people just get triggered and they get like, I'm gonna jump in and fight.
That's outrageous. Well, luckily tonight we're gonna name every arcade game that's ever been made.
pretty much, except for Marble Madness. That's an inside joke, guys.
Hold on, real quick. Fuck Marble Madness, because I always would get my skin stuck in there when you had to hit the ball around and everything, get pinched on there.
Get your skin stuck in there?
Yeah, my hand skin. Same as
Skin?
Centipede. I'd get my hand skin stuck on the ball.
What is up with your hand skin? Is
I
it
don't know. Maybe it's too loose or something.
Is it like
Never-
RoboCop post-acid crash hanging
It's
off
a meal,
your
yeah.
hand?
Get away
Oh,
from me,
boy.
man.
Yeah, so that's Corey Sleazy C from Podcasting After Dark. And Dustin, clean-shaven Dustin. Y'all can't see this, but for the first time in 20 years, Dustin is clean-shaven, and it is freaking us all out right now because he looks like a little baby
freaking me out.
boy.
Dude, Dustin explained why he had to, shave his beard and everything. He hasn't shaved his beard in like 30 years. And he told us all of this for like 5 minutes. I looked away to grab my beer and I looked back and I almost spit it out of my mouth because I was shocked yet again.
Yeah, it is shocking. It is shocking for me to look at, and yeah. But
luckily, the
shocking.
listeners don't have to see it.
A job requested it, and I have no choice.
There you go.
So I'm just writing it out.
Speaking of jobs, Night Boy Paul London once again is no longer with us because he's filming a commercial in Encino. So playing a bus driver. No, I have no idea what he's doing in Encino, but he's shooting a commercial. So God bless him. So he will not be
you have
joining
some
us.
idea what he's doing.
I have some idea. He showed me a photo.
I have
and
no
I
idea
go,
what he's doing, but
I know that house, but I did not know that house.
All right.
Okay. Anyways, last month on 80s Kids Unite, we celebrated our least favorite video games for the home consoles, Nintendo specifically. And while we were playing with ourselves at home in the 80s, we also played with ourselves at arcades in the 80s. And tonight,
Really, nobody's gonna jump on that.
Nah, we're let that slide
you just
by.
did.
We're all
Okay.
everyone's mature here.
All right.
Well, come on, I was waiting. Thank you, Dustin. So tonight's topic brought to us by patron of Podcasting After Dark, Cam Sully, had a bunch of great topics. We kind of tweaked this one. Favorite place to play video games at an arcade, and our favorite game to drop those tokens into on a regular basis. So I know that's a really long wording of what we're doing tonight, but so there you go. So thank you, Cam, for suggesting the topic. And guys, I'm excited to jump into this with you. I just want to throw a few names out to you really quick and see if any of these ring a bell.
Are you picking some from our actual states, or am I supposed to know like arcades in Detroit?
So I did a little bit of a deep dive before we went on the air here of like popular arcades across the country. And these are some of the various names of arcades across the country. I will omit one of them because it's one I will bring up later in the episode. But have any of you ever heard of Aladdin's Castle?
No.
I think so.
So Diallo, did you ever spend any time going to arcades in the South Bay?
Not frequently, but when you said it rang a bell.
Because Aladdin's Castle was at Sunnyvale Town Center.
Okay. Okay.
Dustin, Aladdin's Castle, does that ring a bell for you?
Does not.
Nope. How about Station Break?
Nope.
No.
Nope. How about Malibu Grand Prix?
Oh yeah, I spent hours. I mean hours. I spent decades there.
Diallo, what, for everyone curious, what could you do at Malibu Grand Prix besides play video games?
You could drive go-karts, basically, like race like Grand Prix go-kart thingies.
You could, and you had to get a driver's license. You had to get a go-kart driver's license, of which I still have my own.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'll take a picture of it and post it up on our socials so everyone can see what I look like in 1994.
I think I had a birthday party there once. I think.
Me too.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Gold Mine. Has anyone
yeah.
ever heard of Gold Mine?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nope.
So,
did any of these make it to the East Coast, or are these all like West Coast arcades?
I mean, I have a feeling like there was another one called Spaceport Arcade and Time Zone and Time Out. I don't know if any of those ring a bell for you guys in the malls.
Time Out sounds familiar.
Well, because it's a magazine.
Oh.
Goldmine was at a number of different malls. It was
a chain.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Because I remember
Aladdin's
going
Castle
to
was too.
the one in a fashion. What was it? Fashion Mall or whatever it was in Foster City.
Oh, Faux City, yeah.
Yeah,
for
and
life.
then there was another one in like Fairfield, I think, when I visit my grandparents, and yeah, I remember going to a bunch of gold mines all over the place.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. So before we went on tonight, I had asked Kristen what her favorite arcade was, and she's like, the mall.
She's like, what's an arcade? And you're like, oh boy.
Well, wait till I get to
She
her,
called her husband a
response
nerd.
for- I mean, that's a
what's an
regular
arcade,
occurrence.
nerd?
And then she gave me a wedgie. So I said
Since
to
you
her,
tiny teed your tiny tees.
She teabagged his tiny tees.
Yeah.
Oh, so I said to her, where did you play video games? And she goes, at the mall. I said, well, was there an arcade at the mall? She goes, I don't know. I go, well, where did you play video games in the mall? She goes, at the mall.
This sounds right.
And I'm like, no, but it had to be an arcade, maybe, right? So, anyways, probably Goldmine was that.
That's the dumbest conversation I've ever.
Well, it gets more dumb because I said,
Where'd you play video games? At the mall? In an arcade? No, at the mall. What do you mean?
In her defense, they weren't always at arcades.
They're just
like
in the Macy's.
Yeah,
sometimes
like,
you go in through.
I remember
the
in Stonestown they used to have. That's where I played that Journey. Remember that Journey game?
Oh yeah,
I remember
8-bit versions of the Journey.
I remember
music, yeah.
it was that Journey game, and there was like another game, and they used to sit in the food court, like on the off to the side.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So they,
okay, that's fair.
Yeah, they. You see them all over the place. If you go to the movies, there's arcades there, but or games there, but it wasn't like an arcade. So, like, yeah.
True. Okay, fine, fair.
Yeah, and also in Kristen's defense, like I played arcade games in two places. It was either at a putt-putt, which I'll bring up where, or at the beach arcade, like on the boardwalk in Ocean City. And I think it's just, a standalone. It just says like arcade on it, So like you're reading off these like chains or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't even know like arcades had names. I thought they were just called like arcade.
Oh, they had names. But when I get to mine, apparently it's a chain as well. I was unaware of it, but until
just you wait.
Just you wait. But Kristen had said her favorite arcade game to play back in the day was probably Frogger.
I like Frogger. So did George Costanza.
There you go.
Yes, he did.
But anyways, she's not on the show and talking about her podcast, Hey Boo, a witch's podcast, which y'all should check out. By the way,
I've been on it.
It's Corey has talking about sigil magic. What's sigil magic?
Go listen.
Yep, go listen to that. Let's jump into this though. Thanks to Cam. Thank you, Cam, for bringing this up.
Thanks, buddy.
We are going back to back with arcade or video game talk. I'm excited because I've been wanting to talk about my game for a really long time, but I'm going to save it. I'm just going to do a little randomizer.
For a really long time. What, like decades? What do you mean?
Since we started doing podcasts. I believe I might have talked about it with Corey briefly, but I'm going to talk a lot about it tonight.
Okay.
Diallo, where did you play arcade games back in the day, and what was your favorite game to hunk tokens down for?
Well, I mean, I played in a lot of different arcades, like the Goldmine.
Yeah, like Goldmine.
Malibu Grand Prix. There was Farrell's Ice Cream that was nearby. I used to play a lot of games.
Dude.
There was
that's
Pizza and Pipes. I remember playing some games there. There was a round table down the street where I played Cloak and Dagger game. But anyways, the one that I went to most frequently.
Points.
Yeah, the one I went to most frequently was, I don't know the name of it. It was arcade. like Corey said, it was called. I actually looked it up because I was like, what was the name of that? I couldn't find it, but it was at Ceremony Mall in Daly City, California, and I used to play a game called Narc.
Fuck yeah!
Yeah.
Oh,
I love that game.
You shoot guys and the bags of cocaine will fly on their bodies.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It was like peak, extreme. It was like extreme before extreme came on the scene, It was very like sort of like bloody and over the top, and that obviously that was the appeal and draw for us teenagers, and sitting right next to like Crystal Castle.
Yes.
But it was
That game ruled too.
Yeah, we just play. There was just mayhem. I don't know, arms flying around and blood everywhere and crazy.
Did you play
faces.
solo, or did people join in with you and play two player?
I don't remember. I probably solo. I think I just like when I play video games now. I don't like to go online and play with other people because they're mean.
Yeah,
and
fair.
competitive. Fair. So I just kind of like do my own thing. But yeah, I just, I don't know, go in there and, almost every video game I played, it was, I die pretty quickly because I was never, I remember going in, this was on a Super Mario Brothers game at the same time. And like a guy, there was always that one guy that had like a row of quarters on the top of the game so that he would hold it and he would just play it and no one else would get to play
Got
it.
next.
But that's the only way you could get good, and I never had that, much money.
Right. So people would, for those wondering, if you wanted to play next, basically you put your tokens up on the screen.
Yeah.
But you would be like next in line, I guess.
Yeah.
This dude was just lining them all up like, I've got the whole game.
Yeah, like it literally was like
play.
10 quarters sitting up there, and he just,
That's a bit much.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Narc came out in 1988, by the way, and the object of the game was to arrest and kill drug offenders, ultimately defeating
quote,
Mr. Big.
unquote, arrest.
Quote unquote. And there were 2 players that you could play as, and they both wore like motorcycle helmets, right?
Yeah, and
they,
like flak
jumped out
jackets
of a
or
car.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. The main characters' names were Max Force and Hitman.
Oh, I didn't know they had names. I thought it was just blue guy and red guy.
Yeah. So they were given a memo by Spencer Williams, the Narcotics Operation Chair in Washington, D.C. Their mission is to apprehend Mr. Big, the head of underground drug trafficking and terrorist organization.
And it was one of those, I feel like it was one of the earlier games that actually used like images of people as the sprites. This was around, I believe it's still before Mortal Kombat 1. And what was that other Pit Fighter, that other fighting game that had like real people? And I feel like this was like a part of all of that early stuff where they used, real actors or people just in motions, and that was the sprites of the game, which of course made it even cooler in my opinion. But also I liked their helmets. I liked the way they looked and everything. But man, I dunked so many quarters into this game, Diallo. You have no idea. Dude, if it was you and me, buddy, we would have gone all the way to the end.
All the way to the very gates of Mordor.
Yep.
Dustin, did you play Narc?
I did play Narc, but I think, like what you guys are saying, it's like, there's certain images, right, that, that I immediately flash back to. Obviously, that font is, that title font is so ingrained. And it just seemed like a badass game, like the sleeveless, right? The sleeveless, vests or whatever they have. And the fact that they're always got the helmets on. They never,
never take them off.
They never take the helmets off. But it was consistently just like very intimidating. One of those games where I feel a lot of pressure with each quarter, if that makes sense. Like I feel like you want it to go far. Maybe I was only allotted, right, like $2 or something that I had, and you got to kind of pick and choose. And you're like, well, what's gonna get me the most bang for the buck, literally. And so Narc was one that I never committed that to because I wasn't very good at it. So but it's certainly iconic, and it is one that I would gravitate towards every time.
It was hard. There was a lot going on all at once, and it only got harder obviously as the levels progressed. But it was just so many explosions, and you could get hit from both sides, I believe. I think from the front and the back. So that made it more challenging.
I mean, everyone gets hit from both sides.
Yeah.
No, I'm with Dustin. I mean, I loved it, but I never made it far. And also, another thing with arcades, I played a lot more home console stuff because I just didn't have the money. My parents didn't really have the money for me to just go to an arcade and just plunk down a bunch of quarters. So I'm really with Dustin on that one, whereas like I would be aware that Narc was going to kick my ass, but I'm like, I'm going to at least play it once because I fucking loved it. And I was like, let me put it, and then boom, I'm dead. Like, I don't even know if I make it to the first boss and I'm dead. And I'm like, well, that was fun, but let me move over here to something else that I think I can go a little bit further with.
It was so popular too, and so I think a lot of times at the arcade I would often go to, there was a line to play the game, or there would always be someone playing Narc. So getting in there was always kind of a challenge, and then getting blasted immediately, and then you're out. And you're like, oh, damn it! Well, but this game is so cool.
And games nowadays, they do a great job of like scaling. So like I play Helldivers 2, and if you play with 4 people, the game knows to throw more enemies at you. But if you play by yourself, it scales it back a little bit. I think Narc was always the same amount of enemies, no matter if you're playing solo or with somebody else,
Yeah, I brought up Narc recently to Bodhi because Diallo and I were at was it LA Comic-Con this past year? And that's where we bought we were with you too, Corey, when we bought the Kung Fury game. And we recently started playing the game, which is a lot of fun, by the way, for the Nintendo Switch. And I said, "Oh, this has shades of Narc." He's like, "What's Narc about?" And I started telling him, and he's like, "That sounds cool." I'm like, yeah, but this is better because you get to kill Nazis. But if they were only drug dealing Nazis, it would be even more satisfying. So
yeah,
I got to ask you. So Corey, you said it again, and I know it got brought up a few times in the last episode, and Dustin and I talked about it at one point. Can you explain to people that don't know, what is a sprite?
It's the character that you're seeing on the screen, and that was the term back before polygons, like 3D games. Now everything is polygons unless it's kind of like a retro throwback type of thing. But back in the day, everything was like hand drawn. All the characters' movements were hand drawn, and that's how it sort of was. But someone came up with a great idea to take, instead of doing like drawing a character, to actually have someone dressed up as the character and do the motions there. But when you see the character walk across the screen or something, that is the sprite. That character is the sprite.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, and
appreciate that.
Cheap plug, but I made a pad shirt that emulates the Narc logo. The blood splatter is purple. It says like PAD, and then it says like I think it says like only Podcast After Dark has the guts. It's a complete like homage to Narc. So yeah, swing on over to podcastafterdark.com and check out that shirt under the merch tab.
Nice.
Yeah, please do.
It took me a solid 8 hours to do it.
Damn.
It's a really rad shirt, and I've seen Corey model it. He looks great in it, so you're guaranteed to look great in it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Moves
and again,
all.
yeah, right. So, really, one more thing I got to ask you, Diallo. When you played this game, were you playing more token based or quarter based? Because token based was a whole different story.
Yeah, I think it was at that mall. It was quarters. The only place I think I ever really used tokens was like at like Malibu Grand Prix or like Chuck E. Cheese or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, that's another arcade, Chuck E. Cheese. But yeah, I think it was just quarters.
Nice.
Which limited how, like, cause I might have had like $1 anytime I went. It was a big deal when I had like $5 to spend. And then there was one epic time I had $20 that I spent on a video game that I'm going to talk about a little bit later when you do yours. But
okay,
cool. played this game with a friend of mine, and I remember I had gotten paid for my little job, and I was like, we're gonna play this game, we're gonna beat it.
Dude,
took out $20.
Maybe we have
Dude, $20 a quarters. You need a cup to carry that many.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, Corey, why don't you move? Well, Corey, why don't you move on to the next one? What's your pick? Favorite arcade and arcade game?
Yeah, so I mentioned
arcade place to play video games.
Yes. I mentioned Ocean City, the boardwalk, and that was a big one for me. But this one in particular, I remember playing it for the first time at Putt Putt in Roanoke, Virginia, when I would go visit my dad during the summers. Zach, to your question earlier, this was a token-based. I believe all Putt Putts were probably token-based and not quarter-based. But the one that caught my eye was released in 1987 by Taito, and that was Operation Wolf. And what really got me was it was the first time, and maybe it is the first one, that has like a light gun, like it has an Uzi that you use as the controller. The game kind of scrolls to the right. The camera scrolls to the right as, guys pop up and you shoot them and everything. And, I was kind of pulled a Diallo on this one. I had a hard time coming up with the one I actually wanted to do because, I love Dragon's Lair and stuff. But, when I think back on 80s arcades and just that smell, I literally thought about, I was like, what did the putt-putt smell like, that arcade? And my mind immediately went to Operation Wolf. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go with that one. I also had it on the NES, and I loved it on the NES. But yeah, I played the hell out of it at the arcade. And it kind of reminds me, I pretended I was Commando. I would always pretend like I was Commando because all the guys, all the enemies dressed up in it had that that green drab look, back in the day.
Yeah.
So it's total 80s, and I love the hell out of it.
Yeah, you played as Special Forces operative Roy Adams, and you were attempting to rescue 5 hostages who were being held captive in enemy territory. So you're not a commando, you're Roy Adams, okay?
Roy Adams.
You're not John Matrix.
Dustin, did you play Operation Wolf?
Yeah, most
Thank you.
definitely. I mean, Operation Wolf, it had that almost like the cinematic montage as you were. There was a lot to see before you put in your quarter, and that to me was always like a big thing, right? Because you're a kid, you maybe you don't have your money yet, or you're like, what am I gonna spend on it? So you sit, you watch, and maybe you get some gameplay that comes up, a sample demo. But this would give you this, like the knife it was like Commando style. It was Rambo, Commando.
Totally.
All of our favorite 80s action movies are exemplified in this mini montage that happens before you put a quarter in. And Operation Wolf was very cool. I was very bad at it. It was, again, one of those ones, how long is this going to go? I don't know, a minute? Like, you can dish the damage, but you really can't take it.
Yeah.
And the damage, you take damage very fast in this game. So yeah, I would probably, I'd play this a little bit more than Narc, I think, for the mechanics of it, because it is right. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna get, it's like, oh, that was a good trial, but now I've got it. Now I know the aim. Now I know, now I know the appropriate way to get further in the game. So that one would probably get more of my money, for sure.
How about you, Diallo?
Yeah, I remember. It's funny because I thought of that game when I was thinking about games to pick. It wasn't my favorite, but I brought up that place Farrell's, and I actually remember playing that game there all the time.
Is that the ice cream place with a giant bowl of ice cream?
Yeah, they would like have these big poles and run and play sirens if it was your birthday or whatever. Anyway, didn't that one have like a little like grenade launcher button or something too?
Yep. On the side,
on the
side,
right?
Yeah. That was a staple of game playing back in the day. So I loved that.
And apparently it won the Golden Joystick Award for Game of the Year in 1988.
Oh, so, but it didn't win the Archie. Apparently, that was another arcade award ceremony that we talked about on this previous episode of $2 Late Fee in regards to Fright Night. The Archies were also a big award company or award presentation show back in the day. I think I might have played this game a handful of times in the arcade, but I think I played it more on the Nintendo Entertainment System, which was not as fun. The arcade games were rarely as good on the home consoles for various reasons, but I found this interesting. The endings of the game, there were multiple endings of the game depending on how many hostages you actually rescued. So I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, I don't think I ever even beat it on the NES either. And same as you, man. Like I played this more on the NES, but I wouldn't have bought it for the NES if I didn't love it in the arcade,
Right.
And same with like Spy Hunter and whatnot. That was another one that was maybe going to make my list, but this one just
Totally forgot about that. I was so obsessed with that game.
Man. Me too, dude.
Yeah, dude. That Spider was my jam.
Yeah,
but
I love
this
that.
one just, for some reason, the moment I thought of it, it was like it all came rushing back. And like I said, like the smell of the arcade came rushing back when I thought of it. So
yeah, I oftentimes when I get to mine, I'll talk about that smell because it is a particular smell
it's
in
a
arcades.
very particular smell.
And really, one more thing I want to add. Kristen wanted to say "putt putt in your butt butt."
She just sent that as a text?
No, she said don't forget to tell Corey that I said putt putt in his butt butt.
I approve.
What does that mean to you, Corey?
Yeah, what does that mean to you?
It means putt putt in my butt butt.
Oh, okay.
Moving on, Dustin.
There's no
so,
backstory?
Favorite location or favorite place to play arcade games, and your favorite arcade game. What were they? Where was it? Tell us. We want to know.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to give a lot of basically some shout outs to special places of arcades in my life. Strathmore Lanes in Strathmore, New Jersey is a bowling alley. Had some excellent games. Chuck E. Cheese, as Diallo mentioned. Also, there's a place called Razzmatazz, which was like kind of our like a backup Chuck E. Cheese. It was I don't know enough about it to say like it was only East Coast or what or Jersey, but it was super fun. And a special acknowledgement to my pediatric dentist, Dr. McGuire, who captured what it was as a child, the experience of like going to the dentist, hating the dentist, and then arriving and finding a free arcade that you could play while waiting to be called in for your, tooth cleaning, your
Audible
teeth cleaning.
Gasp.
And
What was the game?
Well, he had like 5 or 6 games, but primarily it was Centipede.
Okay.
That was kind of
so you got your melty palm pinched in that ball thing.
You got your melty palm pitched in the ball. I don't know. I think that's just you, Corey. I think you had
sounds
melty
like a
palm.
bad episode
Never heard
of
of that until today.
Melty palm.
It sounds like
syndrome.
Different Strokes. Something happened on Different Strokes.
Yes, melty palm syndrome. Different Strokes special episode.
Yes.
Did you sing Different Strokes theme song, Diallo?
Corey is deadly. Corey's deadly. Diallo.
Right.
Corey's deadly.
But then also Dr. McGuire would give you a special token at the end of your appointment, and you go out and you would spin a wheel and you'd get a prize. So it was
What the hell? His
it was the
dentist
best
is this
dentist
guy?
experience ever.
And
as well as it could go, I guess. No, but amazing. But really understanding the psychology of children on that special episode of My Dentist. And but my favorite location was what was called just the boardwalk. I think it's now called Jenkinson's. It was Jenkinson's Arcade at the Point Pleasant Boardwalk in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, 30 minutes from me down the shore. And, one of those standard boardwalk fare, right? You've got your mini amusements and your caramel corn apple stands and all taffy and all that shit. And then,
which is really gross.
But
it's gross, by the way.
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's like you want it and then you have it and it's disgusting. But I would always, I would always, when we visit, that's where I would go. Jenkinson's. And my favorite game, cumulatively, I think, was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The games that kind of presented themselves were all of a sudden you could have 4 people playing at the same fucking time. There were a lot of games that did it. I felt like this one really set the precedent, set the stage for games like X-Men, The Simpsons, right? And those were games that you could you'd be passing by, somebody be in the middle of something. Maybe they'd be further along the game than you had ever been. You can just pop on in with them. Like, right? Hey, can I jump in? Yeah, sure. It fosters this sense of community. Aside from the fact that I love, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in general, and each turtle had their kind of specific abilities, their powers, and it was just a lot of fun. That game also translated over to the Nintendo. Equally fun. But that was a game, I could just put me in front of that machine. I just play it for hours.
Dude, I still play it now, man. Like there's a TMNT collections game for the PS5, and that's on there. Every single one of them's on there, and I still play it. And then they came out with like a new one that's like sort of like a revamped version of it, and it's so damn good. But no, Dustin, you're right. That was like, I'm sure there's maybe something before it, but I feel like that's the one that set the stage for having 4 players, like you said, Simpsons, X-Men, and everything. But I mean, it was TMNT, and I was Raph every single fucking time. And I loved that game.
Yeah, I think it was '89. Konami released it. But yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and I remember up until that point, multiplayer games that had more than 2, believe were like Gauntlet, maybe Golden Axe.
Oh, yeah.
Around that time too. Those are fun, but it didn't have the same gameplay that the TMNT game had, because also too, they look like the characters from the cartoon, and it was cartoon accurate, which I thought was really rad. So it made you feel like you were playing an extended episode of one of the shows.
That's a good point. But also the usability of the console, right? Where it's laid out, it's almost like a flat table. You can fit 4 people comfortably on that thing versus like Golden Axe and Gauntlet. We're a little like, let's cram around the thing.
Yeah. I think Gauntlet was a little more expanded, but Golden Axe definitely was like you're butted up next to each other.
And my favorite move was when you threw the foot soldier against the screen, and they would like slide down it. I was like, that was so cool. It's like you're breaking the fourth wall.
Diallo, did you play TMNT back in the day in the arcade?
Yeah, not extensively. I remember, seeing it and playing it here and there. Dustin, you brought up X-Men. Like, I was more into that genre, obviously, because I'm a mutant.
Why?
Undercover mutant.
Why?
Yeah, there was that whole, like, you mentioned Simpsons. I actually forgot about that game, but I used to play that one too. And it's like a spiritual ancestor of descendant. It's a spiritual descendant from like Double Dragon and those kind of games. And then when they had the 4 games set up, then it was like, it was on. But yeah, I think I played more of the NES Ninja Turtles. That is, some people say it's the hardest game to ever play.
It is hard.
Yeah, I don't like when you're swimming in that one maze part. It's just crazy stupid. Yeah, I played that more, but when I was at the arcade, I definitely played that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
Well, was Rampage only 2 players? Because I knew there was 3 characters.
3.
Yeah, I think it was 3.
But there was actually 3 joysticks on the... Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that was 3.
Ralph, Lizzie, and George.
Yeah. I liked it when Lizzie died, she would turn into a naked chick and then kind of...
you would like it.
Yes, Lazy C, baby.
Playing with himself, playing at home, playing at the arcade.
Playing with himself at home.
And Smash TV was only 2, right?
Yeah, that was a fun game. Oh, and then there was a game that you guys may or may not know called Xenomorph.
Oh, yeah.
Xenophobe.
Xenophobe.
Yeah.
Xenophobe had, I believe, 3 screens and they were side-scrolling.
Yeah.
And it was cool. You'd be like trapped in a room with these aliens. You pick up they used the phaser from looked really similar to Star Trek, and you assume the role of a person on a ship or something having to kill aliens. And then there was Alien Syndrome was a 2-player, but that was basically aliens. But anyways, Corey and I did a episode years ago, a watch list episode on Podcasting After Dark, our favorite arcade games. Those games were brought up, but so far, I don't think any of these games have been brought up on that list from that episode back then.
Narc. That's where I got the shirt idea from, because I think Narc was on there. But yeah,
right.
That was like season 1, guys and gals. Go back and listen to that one.
Way back when. Well, and we did talk about my game, and I'm excited to talk about it again with you guys as well, Diallo and Dustin, because back in the day when I played video games, there was like you, Dustin, there was a few that stood out to me in Diallo. Bullwinkles was a knockoff of Chuck E. Cheese. We had that in Sunnyvale.
I was thinking of that earlier. I didn't know if you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, Bullwinkles was great. So I even though I was born in Michigan, I spent the bulk of my childhood in California, 84 on. And so going to the arcade or going to places primarily by myself. In the 80s, you were 8 years old, going to the arcade by yourself, and your parents were totally okay with that. At least my mom was. Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk in the Bay Area was a popular place. Obviously, the Lost Boys showed a little bit of that, but the arcade they had at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, and I haven't been there in decades, was epic. It was a really, really rad place to go play games. Still popping. Oh, cool. Yeah. That's good to hear.
Can I say something really quick? When I worked at Diamond Comics as a customer service rep, the guy who owned that comic shop that was in Lost Boys, He was my one of my clients.
Oh.
And yeah, he owned it then, and I don't know if he's still alive now because this was like 25 years ago. Oh, okay,
he is still alive, and he still does own it because one of the Frog Brothers that we interviewed, Jameson Newlander, a couple of years ago on $2 late fee, has actually done some documentary stuff up there with him.
I don't know if you'd remember me, but yeah, I was his rep for about 2 years at Diamond Comics.
Well, if you pronounced wolf in front of him the way you pronounce it with us, then he'll probably remember you, because that definitely is memorable.
Is he also shirtless and plays the saxophone?
Oh, there's only one, Diallo. There's only one. So my elementary school was about a mile and a half from Valco Shopping Mall, which is now the location of the Apple Hub, like the Apple base is where Valco Shopping Mall used to be in Cupertino, California. And I would save up my lunch money. My mom would give me money throughout the week to buy, a snack or whatever extra from the lunch she gave me. And I would save that money up. And on Fridays, I would go to the arcade and just, as my dad would say, blow my wad of cash. And it wasn't until the late 80s, I believe like 1989, when Taito, or whatever, however you pronounce it, released Champion Wrestler for the arcade. And you guys know my love of wrestling. Obviously, Territory Marks have brought it up on there before. But I love, I didn't just love WWF and NWA. I love, unique wrestlers, like we talked about with Muscle, like games, like characters that maybe are inspired by real characters, but they're their own ones. So Champion Wrestler was a pretty simple game. You played one of 8 characters. The characters were Rocky Garner. They had Miracle Roston, who looked a lot like Kerry Von Erich. And that's one of the reasons why I like this game so much, because I love Kerry Von Erich. Matterhorn Decker, the samurai, who reminded me of Diallo, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, of course, right? Nitro Panks. I'm skipping over one character in particular. Jimmy Carbon, Cobra Bloody Joe, and Black Machine, who... if you guys have ever watched, and I know both of us have, Diallo and Dustin, Lucha Underground, it reminds me of Prince Puma, but I think he was very much inspired by a Japanese wrestler called Tiger Mask, back in the day. So anyways, those 8 wrestlers, you could play as one of those in either singles competition or tag competition. The basis of the game was eliminate all the other wrestlers and win the championship. And if you wrestled as a tag team, I believe it culminated, because I haven't played it in forever, it culminated with a tag with a cage match option as well. And it had the digitized voices of the referee, wrestle, and then he would count 1, 2, 3, right? You could hop out of the ring. All these great options that up until this point, every system that had a wrestling game, Nintendo and Sega, they weren't that great. It was the arcade versions that were really good, that were more articulated and detailed. And I played the heck out of this game all the way to the point where I saved up $5 and I got tokens at my favorite arcade, which is Tilt at Valco Fashion Mall. Tilt was my place, the place that I would go to just escape the horrors of school at the time, bullies, all the other drama going on. Tilt was my home away from home. And I remember spending $5 on Champion Wrestler and finishing that game one very satisfying Friday after school. I know, Diallo, you're kind of jumping at the bit because you had maybe something to say about Champion Wrestler. What are your thoughts about Champion Wrestler?
Well, I didn't. Sorry.
Oh, damn it.
So when you first mentioned it, because there's a game that I used to play, and I thought it was the same game. I never really knew there was like a different game. So when I was looking at the pictures for yours, I was like, oh, that's not the same game. And then I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and I found the one I was thinking about. But I've actually never heard of this game, which I'm actually really stunned.
You've never heard of Champion Wrestler?
Never heard of it. But that's very Zach. Like you picked something I just never would have heard of before.
You've never heard of this game?
Yeah, I never heard of it. When I was looking at like all these wrestling games, I don't even really remember like any arcade wrestling games for them, except for there's one that I played. But I think I was out of the realm like when like the WWF game started coming out. I was mostly consoling by then, I guess. So, but yeah, I used to play.
What was the game you used to play?
It was called The Main Event.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is another great game
Yeah.
that has very similar inspired wrestlers, but they're their own characters.
Yeah. It was clearly this one character was Hulk Hogan and
Andre the Giant.
Yeah. Coco Beware. And the Tonga Kid, I think. But I was looking at the ones for your game, and the graphics and everything actually are better. It actually, and it has like the steel cage, and I'm just so shocked I never saw this one. But yeah, I remember, I took I had $20 and I got $20 in quarters, and my friend Ed and I, after school, we caught the bus, like we had to like stop at Ceremony to go like get on the bus to go home. And that was where Pizza and Pipes was. And like we went there, and I gave him $10 in quarters, and I had $10 in quarters, and I was like, we're gonna beat this game. So I don't actually remember if we beat it. I don't remember if we beat it. I think we got really far. I remember getting really far, but I can't remember if we beat it or not. I'm that old that I like forget things now.
Well, Diallo, I will say this, I'm going to say you did finish that game. And I'm going to say, like I finished mine with $5. My mind was blown by the way as I was doing research for this game. It's available on the Nintendo Switch for an instant download.
No.
Oh, wow.
Did you get it?
I just bought it. It was $7.
Nice.
And I'm like, Bodie, just so you know, on your account, there's going to be a game on. Back in the day, the kid had to tell their parents they put something on their account. I'm telling Bodie, I put a game on his account. So you can get this game. The fact that I now own this game, I've been going on eBay for decades, like seeing if I could get like pieces of the top of the arcade that shows it's like a plexiglass that shows the name of the arcade game. I've been looking to see if I could get that. Maybe someone selling a rundown arcade cabinet that I could find space for. The fact that I can now own it and play it on Nintendo Switch, it's very satisfying. So there you go.
Yeah.
Dustin, did you ever play this?
I want to add, for only slightly more than it cost you to beat the game back in the 80s.
Oh, dope.
Good
That's
point.
super
So
dope.
inflation's not so bad.
Yeah, you now own it for $7. You beat it for $5. I mean, yeah, there's a lesson there. It's very exciting.
There's something there.
I did play this game, but it's so funny because you were listing the names, and I got, this is what happens to me, right? You go Nitro Panks, and I'm like, Nitro Panks, like all the names are pretty good. Nitro Panks, it just sounds like a Key and Peele, like that football sketch, like introducing Nitro Panks. I'm like, why does this sound so fucking weird? And interestingly, so this game was released for the arcades in 1989, but then it was ported to the PC Engine. The PC Engine was the first 16-bit console exclusive to Japan. It was also known as the TurboGrafx 16.
Oh.
So, and when it was ported, when it was ported in 1990, his name was renamed to N Punks, which makes a lot more sense, right? Because he's a guy with the mohawk. He looks like a punk. So I don't know if that was a translation. I'm like, what the fuck is Panks? They changed it to Punks. But also, the PC Engine version has a support for the 4-player multiplayer with a multi-tap accessory, including both traditional tag team and tornado tag team, in which all players fight at once.
Whoa. So that was a cool option. You could play, if you played as a tag team and you were a one player, the computer would play for you as well and be really good too, by the way.
Which is good. So that sounds super fun. But anyway, The thing with me and games like this is, and when I say games like this, I mean games in which you have to rapidly tap. They're not my favorite because it's almost like I just get button fatigue, and it's just like, who can pound harder to try and get the slam. It's the same thing with I did love, the Nintendo.
Who can pound harder?
Who can pound harder? It's just like you're just pounding, slapping, punching, ramming, thrusting. At least that's how I did it, right?
You're killing me, Smalls.
But just games in which you have to, essentially injure your thumb. Yeah, you're button mashing. So
I agree with you on that. I agree with you, but I will say this was a little bit easier to do that. All you had to do was weaken their energy meter, and if they got to the end, you could easily pin them.
Okay, so there's some strategy there. It's not just who can mash the hardest, fastest, longest.
Pound the hardest. Come on, Dustin.
Who can pound?
Say it right.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, I really do like the characters. I love, they're different sizes. It's not generic. It's not like muscle wrestling, right? Where you just
right.
You have actual distinct characters. A Tiger Man is cool. The mustaches are cool.
Yeah, I will say Black Machine, aka Tiger Mask. I believe, like I said, he was influenced by Tiger Mask, and I think Prince Puma was influenced by Black Machine a little bit. Prince Puma being Ricochet in the WWE while he was there. Very distinctive characters, and again, like I said, Kerry Von Erich, a little nod to him as well as Miracle Rostan. So Corey.
Oh wait, and I just want to say something about Miracle Rostan because it also says here that Miracle Rostan resembles their other game, Rostan, which is about a barbarian.
Oh yeah.
So
I remember that game.
They made this game with kind of him in mind as the centerpiece character.
Oh.
Because is it by the same company that made Rostan?
It is. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love it when they do stuff like that, like having. Obviously we know like Mario being in Donkey Kong and stuff like that, but like there's other examples of that, like Capcom and whatnot. They would use the same characters and kind of rotate them. I think that's cool. I like that.
I agree.
Yeah, it's really cool. Corey, I mentioned I played this at Tilt. Tilt was apparently a chain, but it was in the cellar of Valco Fashion Mall. Rest in peace, which has been immortalized, by the way, in Bodie's notes for the past year or so. Going back with a little Stranger Things nod as well. But Corey, did you play Champion Wrestler? Are you familiar with it at all?
No, not at all. I think Diallo said it or something, but I don't remember a single wrestling arcade game. I never saw one, or they just weren't on my radar. So I didn't even pay attention. For me, the only wrestling game I really played was that Pro Wrestling for the NES. But I will say that I'm looking at the character select screen that you sent, Miracle Rostan and whatnot, Nitro Panks. I don't have this as any kind of confirmation, but they look like they're designed by the person or the team that did Fist of the North Star. They kind of have that thick neck, but like a pointy chin look to them. Again, I don't know if that's maybe just the style of the times, but it looks like it could be something like out of Fist of the North Star, some of these characters here. I do think that it looks good, though. Like, this looks really cool. The characters look awesome, and I like the graphics. But kind of to Dustin's point, I remember occasionally playing, wrestling games with my buddies on the Nintendo 64 and stuff. And every wrestling game seemed like you just had to mash the button in order to make them submit or something. And I just, after a while, my fucking hand got tired. I'm just like, I don't see the enjoyment of this, It just seemed like that was the main play mechanic to a lot of these wrestling games.
I don't think this one was the case. My memory's a little cloudy, and I'll play the Nintendo Switch version and report back maybe on one of our wrap-ups or $2 late fees Tales from the Video Store on our Patreons. Go to patreon.com/podcastingafterdark or patreon.com/$2 late fee to support our shows. Be a part of this discussion on 80s Kids Unite. And listen to some fun content on there. But yeah, if I play the game before we record one of those episodes, I'll share my insight. This and the main event were both great games for wrestling fans.
How many players could play this at the same time? Was this a 2-player game in the arcade, or was it a 4-player game?
This is a 2-player game in the arcade.
Okay.
But you, like I said, if you were in a tag team, that you're the person you played with, like the CPU would play as well, and it was really good.
Okay, so if you were playing with like a friend, you would always be playing against them. They wouldn't be on the tag team with you.
Yeah, I think you probably could play together, but I never did. I only played by myself.
Like all of us.
Yeah, but I mean, that was my thing. So the day I beat this game, I was telling Bodhi this earlier today, there was no one in the arcade. There was no one in the arcade. This is also 89, Bay Area. I think a lot of people, like, the arcade culture was still alive, but it was dying because of the home consoles, right? It was dead. Tilt was dead in the late 80s, early 90s. And I remember no one was there. And it was such a satisfying, like, I see it like it was yesterday. It was such an interesting vibe because I'm so excited and I'm in my own head, and I wasn't that kid who needed a bunch of people around me to high five and, like, you know, do my thing like the Wizard or whatever in Fred Savage. I just was like doing my thing, and I was so satisfied, so happy, so exhilarated, and I just left the arcade feeling so good. And I'm like, I never have to play that game again. But then I just wanted to, just out of pure joy, you know. So
are you lying to your little self right now when you bought that game? You said you never had to play it again, but now here you are.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, I never had to, but then I'm like, I have to. I have to now because in my 40s, the nostalgia has kicked back in.
You made your younger self a liar. Is what you just did.
He's a liar. Yeah. You know who's not a liar, though, is all of us sharing these great memories of these games. That makes no sense. That's a terrible transition. But whatever. I don't care, guys.
You know what we learned here today, everybody?
There's no lying in baseball. What we learned here today is that Cam Sully gave us the fuel to trip down memory lane in a really fun way. And
Memory Lane. I love that.
Memory Lane.
I heard it too.
Trip down memory lane in a really fun way. Thank
Operation
you,
Wolf.
Yeah, you're rubbing off on me, Kobe.
I know. I'm sorry.
You're rubbing up on me. Okay, Kobe. Okay, so as to wrap up this episode in the worst way possible, final thoughts. Diallo, what are your final thoughts about these 80s arcade memories?
It was great.
Corey, what are your final thoughts about?
I agree. It was great.
And Dustin, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I third this, but I also feel like arcades have stood the test of time. It's not like they still exist today. It's not like something that you're telling Bodhi about, like, whoa, back in the day we used to go to the arcades. It's like, no, you still go to them now.
Still go to them now.
Kids are still love, playing games. Obviously, they cost a little bit more most of the time. And you're like, why is this four tokens for Operation Wolf? But it's especially, cool to go to a place like Neon Arcade in I was almost at Santa Monica, in Pasadena, and revisit that feeling, right? And you can still do that.
I remember the first time I saw games where you had to put 2 quarters in, and I was just so irate.
Dude, yeah, agree. Yeah, same.
In the 80s, I was like,
how dare you? Yeah.
But I like how they've really done a good job of bringing back some of these classic games like Space Invaders, Centipede. They make these like
Pac-Man.
Like the screens are huge, and it's like it's the same but different. But honestly, because I take my nephew to this one called Round One or something up in Oregon. But the one I think is the coolest is they redid Pong, but it's like actually this physical thing where you like a square. It's done by magnets or something, but like you're moving an actual physical representation of the Pong, and the pixel is actually like a rubber square on the screen. Yeah. It's really cool. And I just, Dustin, to your point, Yeah, we almost lost them for a bit, but they came back and they figured out how to survive. And, how you survive is you make beer available to the adults and, toys available to the kids. But they've, like, resurrected all these classic games and in new and fun ways. Like Space Invaders, the new Space Invaders, how they have it set up, it's still fun. It's like a 4-player game, and the screen is like the size of a wall, and but it's still Space Invaders. It's like it still is what it is, and I think that is a testimony to the game design for some of these games. They just keep getting rebooted, redone, but I still just want to go back and play the original because it was so good. And some of these games were made by like a handful of people, like sometimes even just one or two. But the gameplay is so fantastic, and they stand
the child
test of
labor
time.
back then. It was like 3 kids could make an entire centipede.
Except 3 kids can make a centipede.
Is that a human centipede?
There you go.
That too.
And on that note,
and I love really quick. I love that Dustin shouted out Neon Arcade here in Pasadena in Southern California. There are great arcades all around. We want to know from you guys, what's your favorite arcade that you went to as a kid, or did you hang out at 7-Eleven? Was 7-Eleven the place to play video games? Because like Diallo, like you said, it wasn't just arcades. They were everywhere. It was at the food court in the mall, like at a Macy's, whatever, at your dentist's office when he's having you fold laundry in the back of the dentist office. They're everywhere. So where did you guys play video games? What were your favorite games to play? It's a 2-part question. So where did you play them? What did you like to play? Let us know in our social medias.
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
Who is your daddy? What does he do? And by the way,
daddy?
Stacking those tokens up, I thought was such a dick move when guys did that. Like, I'm playing, I got 4. Those are all my tokens there. Like, dude, you can't do that. It's like at the gym when the guy leaves the machine and then you go in and he comes back. He's like, no, I'm still working out. And you're like, wait, you just left. Like, nope, that's my water bottle.
Yeah,
right
they strategically leave stuff around there, but they'll go away for like 20 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Those are my
You're
shorts, dude. Those are my shorts. I took them off to leave them on the bench.
So that was the guy back in the 80s that was putting all his tokens up because he was playing Rampage until he finished it. Well, hey, I loved doing this discussion with you guys. I wish we could all play TMNT together, 4-player action. Oh, Streets of Rage those graphics reminded me a little bit of Champion Wrestler as well. And,
well, Streets of Rage was based on Streets of Fire.
Yeah, I didn't find that out until Dustin and I recorded that Streets of Fire episode, and I'm like, wait, what? Cody is the character in Streets of Rage? That's so cool.
Well, wasn't that also like Final Fight too? Because there's a Cody in that, which is also similar.
Because I think they're both SNK, I believe.
Yeah.
Are they the same game, just with different names?
No. Final Fight was, I believe, a one-on-one fighting game, but it used Final Fight,
it wasn't. It wasn't.
Yeah, Final Fight was a beat 'em up, but SNK had a fighting game that would utilize characters from their beat 'em up games. In it. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. Well, the more you know. What a time, as I like to say. So thanks, everybody, for joining us on 80s Kids Unite. Again, if you want to become a patron of one of our shows, go to patreon.com/$2 late fee or patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Sign up. Submit your idea. We will put it on the show, just like we did with Cam Sully with this topic. Cam, we hope you enjoyed this as much as we did talking about it, because it was a lot of fun. And love you guys. Love you, Night Boys, Paul London, wherever you are in the world, riding a bus, doing a commercial for Amazon or whatever the hell.
Filming Speed 3.
Yes. Live long and prosper.
But we're all underneath the same sky, wherever Paul is.
That same 8-bit digital
somewhere
sky.
out there.
Love will
Play us out with some
see
8-bit
us
music,
through.
Corey. We need to have some 8-bit music playing us out.
Is there an 8-bit
arcade
somewhere
music.
out there? That would be perfect.
One more thing I just wanted to say about the arcade and the memory, the smell. You said the smell, like, I don't know if it was the carpet,
Oh, it was. It was the carpet.
It was the carpet.
It was the
the
carpet and the farts.
Yeah, so
the farpet, if you will.
There's a company out there that makes like little mouse pads, but it is the reproduction of the arcade carpet. I have a couple of those. They're so cool. I always wanted that carpet as a kid, and now I realize why it was dark and
dingy.
Anyways, 80s Kids Unite, Night Boys Out, music, cue it, play it, whatever.
'80s Kids Unite is brought to you by Hungry Hungry Hippos, the loudest tabletop game in history. And by Nickelback, Zach's favorite band. If you'd like to suggest topics for this show, go to the Patreon of either $2 Late Fee or Podcasting After Dark, or both. All links are in the show notes. We love you.